Hello and welcome to More Than a Game. My name is Tommy C. I'm joined here with by George. George, how are you this week?
Very good, mate. Very good. Lovely Sunday afternoon. The sun's out in London, so it's been a pretty good weekend.
Mate, just off air before we went live, you were saying you're going out for dinner. What's the dinner plans for tonight? What's the cuisine?
Oh, just standard pub operation, but we're still confined to sitting outside. So just got to layer up in the evenings. That's the hot tip.
As long as it's sunny, then. As long as it's sunny,
when the sun
right.
goes down, it gets cold. But yeah, one more week of that. It'll be good to sit inside. It'll be good to sit and drink inside. Tell you what.
Can imagine, mate. All right, look, plenty of football for us to talk about here. I'm going to be talking Premier League and Champions League with George. But before we get into that, George, what stood out for you this week? What's your moment of the week?
Mate, what didn't happen this week? Like it's been insane.
Everything keeps happening on Sunday nights, though, just after we record.
I've got a couple of little ones. Actually Italian based. So obviously Inter winning the Scudetto. Pretty impressive from Conte turning it round, and they've been clearly the best team all year. So and Conte seems to be the master of winning the league, and I think maybe getting knocked out of the Champions League probably helped them. So yep. There's that side of it, and then there's the return of the special one to Italy, getting a gig in Roma. How many days was he unemployed for? It's probably
it didn't feel like very long. I think it was like a week.
Well, funnily enough, Tommy, the big radio station here, like the big sports radio station, TalkSport, signed Jose Mourinho like 2 days after he was sacked to be a co-host on the Euros. So he was basically unemployed for 2 days, and then he's gone to TalkSport, and then he's gone to Roma. So that should be pretty interesting.
TalkSport must be feeling pretty ripped off that he never actually did any work for them.
Well, I don't know if he's going to fulfill his duties at the Euros or not. He's probably got a bit of work to do. Getting Roma ready for the new season. So yeah, that'll be an interesting one. So yeah, a couple of big moments coming out of Italy this week.
Question without notice: how did Roma do this year?
Are
they top four or?
Hang on. I'll get the live ladder up. I don't even know. They've sacked their coach, Tommy, so they can't have done that well.
Well, actually, no. There was one thing I do know about Roma this season. So their manager was Paulo Fonseca, who was at Shakhtar a few years ago as well. He was actually in the running to get the West Ham job when they appointed Pellegrini. So that's sort of the timeline for how long he's been at Roma for. But I know that Fonseca is a very attacking coach. I think he did really well with like a Portuguese team in the Europa League a couple of years ago. Then he went to Shakhtar, and Shakhtar were a pretty attacking team. But now they've done a Spurs. They've gone from super attacking coach now to a super defensive coach in Jose. So,
just on your question, Roma are currently sitting 7th. So that they'll be able to make the Europa League by the looks of things, and they've got a perfect manager for that. So good luck to him.
How do you think Jose's going to go at Roma?
I think it'll be like a mirror image of what happened at Spurs. Like that's what I think. But he's still got a lot of street cred in Italy, so maybe they won't turn on him as fast. And
he does indeed.
He doesn't have a Harry Kane or Son to bail him out, so
he's got Dzeko instead.
Yeah. Playing right back, he'll be a good right back. I think he's got potential. How about you, Tommy?
Yeah, mate, my moment of the week is something that happened in the A-League midweek. So Mark Milligan off camera talking about his former club's current
which
striker,
one?
Justed. Yeah, you're right. He did play it a few. But talking about Melbourne Victory striker Justed, saying he's the worst player to play for Melbourne Victory ever, which I reckon there's quite a few players and fans watching the A-League who'd probably agree with that, because Justed has been poop this season, I've got to say.
I wish I'd known this was your moment of the week, Tommy. I could have prepared a list of Melbourne Victory's worst ever players, and we could have compared them.
Well, this actually does come up later on in the pod, and Damo does give us a candidate for who gives Just a run for his money. So some bonus content there for the listeners later on. I do have to also give a shout out to former young Socceroo Callum Elder, who made team of the season in League One and won promotion back to the championship with Hull. Had a great season. The left back Callum Elder. I actually thought he was really young, but it turns out he's like 26. So I'm a little bit conflicted about this being a moment of the week, but still good to see Aussies doing good stuff overseas.
Yeah, very good.
Mate, what didn't you like this week?
Well, it's not I'm not complete. It's not a complete conclusion, but what I will say is there's a bit of buzz here about the Champions League final and potentially getting it moved to Turkey. So for those who haven't been following, basically, City and Chelsea are obviously playing the Champions League final, and the UK government has just put Turkey on its red list, which is effectively you're not allowed to travel there, and if you do, you have to hotel quarantine and on your way back as well. So the British FA have basically said, well, if the two English teams go to Turkey, none of their players can make it to any of the Euro camps because on their way back they're going to have to. So there's a big push to get it moved out of Turkey, which is in lockdown anyway, and the UK will be out of lockdown. And I think there'll be fans for the last game of the season, and last couple of games of the season, and the FA Cup final. And I think there's limited crowds for the Euros, but that might be increased given what's happening here. So yeah, it's a bit of a wait and see call. Yeah, and could UEFA do the right thing in light of the Super League stuff and potentially looking even better for maybe moving the Champions League final to where there's probably a crowd, because as it stands, no fans can go anyway. I think there was some allocation of 4,000 tickets for each team fans, but none of them can really travel there also. So why not play it in England? Why not play it at a neutral venue in England?
Is there any particular venue that sort of put their hand up loudest in England to host
Villa Park, yeah. I think it's somewhere in between London and Manchester.
This was one of my candidates for own goal of this week, because whilst I didn't have all of the information about why it was just being thrown out as an idea of moving the game to the UK, other than just that there were two English teams in it. So thanks to the extra content there. But what I did love was Villa Park Aston Villa putting up their hand to say, yeah, we'll host it for you if you like, and then UEFA pretty much saying, yeah, nice one. You don't even meet the minimum requirements.
Yeah, I think I wonder what the capacity is. Yeah, that's right.
Which was I thought that was just like a big self-owned by Aston Villa, and I mean, like there's just heaps better venues as well in England specifically, and maybe they suggested. Yeah, I know, but I guess that's the tricky thing, is that if they put it in Wembley, then there's an easy out, I guess, for Manchester City to say, oh, but that's too close to Chelsea
in London. Yeah. So
I can kind of understand like maybe why they might have picked something like that. But then I mean, like,
but what does it matter if they can't fill it anyway? Like, capacity shouldn't matter anyway for eligibility requirements. So
yeah. I don't know, especially if you're only going to have maybe like 10,000 fans.
Yeah, 10 or 20,000 there. Yeah, exactly. So,
all right, mate. For my own goal though, it's very easy for me to pick on Melbourne victory again, with Adama Traore suspension only being 5 weeks. Also that it took them almost 5 weeks to come to that conclusion. The other one that I had was something we haven't really discussed on the pod after taking that little mini break, which was about the consequences of all of those, the greedy 6 or the greedy 12, depending on which group you're talking about. But they're UEFA the Super League plans, and that really the idea was that they would be punished somehow. And as it turns out, that they were looking at providing some sort of punishment from UEFA, and what they were looking at doing was UEFA's come out and said that they'll be fined basically a combined 25 million euros. That's between the 6 teams as basically a way of reducing their UEFA competition income. I think it's by 5%, and it's going to work out to be roughly 25 million euros or one Shaqiri between all of the 6 champions, 6 of the big greedy 6. So, obviously that's 25 million euros between those 6 clubs is just a pittance. So, really disappointing to see that UEFA didn't really take a stand, and that they haven't really learned anything out of the whole scenario. So,
well, I thought, I don't know if it's been set in stone yet, and I still think Juve, Real, and Barca are sort of holding out for some reason. So I thought they were going to get whacked. Down. I thought they were going to get whacked even more. So,
so I think there's, like you say, I think there's more to come out of this yet.
But
mate, before we get into some Premier League, though, you've already talked about Mourinho going to Roma and how that's interesting for Serie A next season. But this weekend was the final weekend of the Championship as well. Now, George, I know you are an avid watcher of the Championship, so plenty of questions coming your way. No, I'm just kidding. But look, for a lot of football, a lot of our followers, which teams are returning joining the Premier League next year might be their most interested point. So Norwich and Watford, they've been already automatically promoted back after
returning. Tommie, returning.
Barnsley, Brentford, Bournemouth, and Swansea are currently filling the playoff spots. 7-point gap between Barnsley and Reading, who finished in 7th spot. So there was no real jeopardy going into that final round, though. Mate, out of those 4 teams, is there one that you would really like to see come back? Like you want Bournemouth to make an immediate return, or
no? I think Brentford. I mean, they were pretty unlucky last season, and they had quite a good team, and they've lost a couple of their best players, Ben Rama and Ollie Watkins, and they're still going strong, and they're in decent form at the moment. So yeah, I'd like to see them. Get through, and because of last year's heartbreak, they've been pretty consistent this year, and they've rebuilt and done quite well. So yeah, I'd like to see Brentford in the Premier League next year.
Fair enough. So we'll be watching with plenty of intent to see how the playoff semi-finals and then the final go over the next week or so. We'll talk about that more next week on the pod as well. Also, it was whilst the final weekend wasn't particularly interesting from a promotion perspective, there was a pretty wild set of circumstances regarding relegation, with Sheffield Wednesday, Derby, Rotherham, and Wickham all within a shout of being relegated on the final day. 3 of those teams could only go down, so did mean that basically it boiled down to Derby and Sheffield Wednesday deciding whether 2 of Wickham, Derby, and Sheffield Wednesday would go down. In the end, it finished 3-3 at Derby's home ground, Pride Park, meaning Wayne Rooney's Derby ended up staying up, while Sheffield Wednesday avoid a Sheffield Derby next year against Damo's Sheffield United.
That's why they threw the game, Tommie. They didn't want it.
Didn't want it.
Yeah, they didn't want it. Well, yeah, big Roo. Maybe he's going to keep his job. Maybe he won't. Probably should.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, what blew me away was I went, hang on, wasn't this the same Derby? Weren't they in the playoffs last season?
That
was 2 years ago.
You're
right. Yeah.
So they had Lampard, but I think there's only 2 players left in the team that were in that playoff squad. So there's been a bit of a reshuffle, and
shows how quickly things can change in the Championship, I guess.
Yeah.
Alrighty, let's move on to some Premier League though, and we're recording straight after. West Ham have just gone down 1-0 to Everton at home. Probably puts West Ham's Champions League hopes to bed, unless Leicester really do shit the bed in the final 3 games. West Ham did go behind 1-0 to Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Nice finish in the first half. And although West
Ham optional defending from West Ham there.
West Ham's Vladimir Sufal desperately unlucky not to score on the hour mark, hit the post, and then Jared Bowen couldn't convert from close range in the follow-up. And Everton themselves hit the post as well late on. Pretty wild stat out of this one, I thought, which was that West Ham didn't manage to get a shot on target in the whole game. I think they had maybe 10 or 11 shots in total and couldn't get one on target. So bit of a tough day at the office for the Hammers.
But it was an entertaining one, actually. Despite the lack of chances.
Did it feel like West Ham had a chance at scoring though? Because it didn't to me.
No, I thought that with Antonio up front, you're always a chance, but they just didn't seem to have the intensity or the flow. But yeah, I thought it was still pretty exciting game, and enjoyed it actually for a Sunday Arvo watch. Sometimes they can be a bit sleepy, but this one I thought was a bit better than that.
Fair enough. I think maybe while I was watching it, there was one thing that stood out to me though, and that was that whilst I thought the West Ham attack didn't really play particularly well, I thought they were a bit flat after last week. I thought they were a bit sleepy after playing Burnley last week, but I did think Everton's defence and central midfield, I thought that they were all exceptional though. So
Allen got man of the match. Actually, I just saw.
Oh, really? So yeah, like him alongside Ben Davies and
Gylfi. Yeah.
Gylfi and Yerry Mina before he went off, Michael Keane while he was on, and Bed Godfrey, I thought had a really good game as well. So it's probably the defensive performance that Everton fans have been hoping for weeks, if not months, and yeah, they got it against West Ham. Alrighty, moving on to probably the biggest result of the round, though, which was George's Chelsea getting the big result against Manchester City. Pretty strange game, though, I've got to say. We were talking about flat games, and this was a pretty flat game in the first half.
Everyone just had their poker faces on, Tommy. That's what it was.
Yeah, it did seem a bit that way, didn't it? But it was so flat that the bloke that I was watching it with, he went, fuck this, I'm going to bed. And but the game really came alive just prior to half time with City taking a lead after Andreas Christensen's hammy blew out, and Gabby Jesus, Aguero and Sterling all combined for Sterling to tap home that final goal. There was also a penalty, I was going to say Look, I've seen worse penalties not given, but I've also seen sort of.
Well, there was also the Sterling one, the Zuma Sterling one not given as well. After that, but I think you're talking about the Aguero, the Billy Gilmore. Yeah,
I am. Yeah, and I guess this one was notable because everyone will remember this because it was kind of the opposite of that big Aguero moment from years and years ago. And instead of it being an Aguero moment, it's an Aguero no moment.
But can we talk about Aguero for a second? He looks very jacked at the minute. Like, I know he hasn't been playing a lot, but he must be spending a fair bit of time in the gym.
It's probably all he's been doing.
For
the last 18 months. That's all he's done.
Yeah.
You're right. He looks. He's definitely been
weights on the weights program.
Yeah, that's all he's been doing. But do you think he's going for the Panenka, and do you think he's copping shit for that necessarily, or?
He apologized on Twitter for doing that, and it was a bit of a shock to see it happen live, and just bizarre. Like you would have thought he would have just drilled it, given the importance, and that would have made it 2-0 and game over.
You think that does make it game over, but I mean, Mendy stood up big and tall, and he
actually got down, and then he stood up. It was so.
It's a big man, right? So it would have taken. He went to go down pretty much in installments, but like he sort of, like you say, he's going to go down on one knee and then just sort of popped up and used one hand to just catch the ball, which it was pretty surreal to watch. And I mean, this is a City side as well that have really struggled with penalties, not just this year but last year, and I think even going back the season before they have as well, to the point where like they really don't have a recognised penalty taker. No one knows who's going to be taking penalties for City at the moment.
I think if De Bruyne was on the pitch, and that's he would have probably taken it. And that's one thing to say about Chelsea getting the win. City did make a lot of changes, so I think
there was no Mahrez as well.
Yeah, Chelsea's lineup was probably more strong than Kante played and Werner, Mount. Like Chelsea had a more. I mean, Chelsea couldn't afford to lose the game really because of the top four stuff. So they played a much stronger lineup to City's. So that's in City's defence.
It's true. It's true. Mate, the other thing I wanted to mention, though, was in the second half, the game completely changed, though. What did you put this down to? Do you think it was just City just taking their foot off the gas, or Chelsea just really showing, I guess, their mental fortitude at the moment?
I actually thought it was more of a tactical change. So the Chelsea wing-backs, James and Alonso, just pushed up, and especially James, who really targeted that left side where Ake was playing. And Mendy, I think it was as well, was Mendy before he came off. But anyway, the left side, Chelsea just seemed to really, really ram it home, and Werner was getting behind, James was getting behind, and I thought that was the key thing. They really turned it on, and caused City a lot of problems.
Yeah, I guess that's been the key. That sort of left hand side has been real key for City lately. I think it was in the Champions League we saw how good Zinchenko can be this week, and then City in sort of like a similarly big game against another big team, they play Mendy and he's targeted and he's identified as a bit of a soft spot. Yeah,
so it was Mendy and Ake on that left side. So I thought that was the key. The key outlet for Chelsea, and
you feel it all for Ake coming in, like barely played all season, and then he comes in for this game, and he's kind of played out of position almost, and like pretty much he's targeted down that left hand side.
I don't think that they could have won, or they couldn't win the title in the next 3 games anyway, and they could have won if Man U didn't get a result. So I think Pep knew what he was doing, to be honest. He was definitely rotating, and both teams had like massive Champions League games 2 days before. So I don't think Pep, Pep was annoyed because of the penalty. He was annoyed because of the non-penalty decision on Sterling, but I think he can live with it because they're going to win the title next week anyway.
Do you think he's deliberately played a pretty random sort of 11 as well, in the hopes that like next time they play that Tuchel's and Chelsea just have no idea like what they're playing against?
I mean, he played a bit of a random formation, a bit of a random 11, and I think it was more to rest people than to confuse. But City without De Bruyne and Mahrez in the form, and Gundogan as well, they're Gabby Jesus and Sergio Aguero don't even hardly ever come on, and they both started. I'm not reading too much into this game, to be honest. I'll take the 3 points, obviously. But
I think if there was one thing to take out of, I guess, the performances of some of those players, it's that there were very few of those players that did come in for City who'd be banging on the door to be playing again, because like I thought Jesus and Aguero, I thought they were terrible. Like the number of times that they would either just give the ball away or something like that, it was like it didn't feel like you were watching City. It felt almost like you were watching City for, remember, like the first sort of 5 rounds of the season where like they were just terrible. And you sort of thought, oh, well, yeah, they're about to get picked off. They're about to concede sort of at any time. And in that second half, they were pretty ordinary.
Yeah, no, they were. And as I said, like if you look at their starting 11, Ruben Diaz will play, Edison will play, Laporte may play. And then I couldn't tell you whether the rest of them will actually be in the starting 11. Cancel out, I don't know. Like Mendy, I don't know. And so Pep definitely used his squad there.
Fair enough. Maybe was there anyone that really stood out for you apart from the wing backs for Chelsea? Anyone you want to give a particular shout out to?
I'll throw out a well done to Billy Gilmore. Thought he was really good in the midfield and just slotted in. He's barely played all season, so I'm gonna give him another well done. And I thought Reece James and Alonso in the second half were really good. So Christensen, it's sad that he's done his hammy, so I don't think we'll see him back either. So throw a shout out to him, even though he was cold.
Just on Billy Gilmore, I think that's a really good shout because, I mean, Chelsea this season, they've shown how they can pretty much make it work with any of those sort of midfield three of Kovacic, Kante, Jorginho, but we haven't, like you say, we haven't seen much of Billy Gilmore, and for him to sort of step up and against a top level opposition shows, I guess, his quality as well, and also the mentality too.
And the one other thing for Chelsea is, like you were saying, Tommy, that the top four is all done and dusted. But like Chelsea have got Arsenal on Wednesday, then the FA Cup final on Saturday, and then obviously they've still got the Champions League final and plus a couple of other games. So like I don't actually think it's over, because it's like, what's Tuchel going to do? Like he's going to have to rotate. We've got enough probably going forward, and it's just he keeps playing Kante every week and subbing in Jorginho and that sort of thing to. But like we get a couple of injuries and we're in serious trouble, so he's going to have to rotate, and there's going to be games where we're not at our best.
And I guess you can't take it for granted that Chelsea will win the Champions League and get Champions League qualification that way, right? Like, how bad would it be to lose the Champions League final and not make the top four? Like, it would be probably a bit of a disaster. I think it's unlikely that both of those will happen, but still, it's still possible at this point.
Yeah, and exactly, and then and interestingly enough, like we're playing Leicester in the FA Cup final, who are sort of currently fourth and still need to lock in their Champions League, and they don't want to miss out again. So, it's a pretty exciting finish to the season. So sometimes you find the season kind of ends with a little bit, everything's sorted, and this year it's like who's going to win the title and who's relegated, but the battle for that top four is proving to be pretty exciting.
Yeah, mate. There's still plenty to play for. Aston Villa hosted Man United. Really typical performance, I thought, from Man United, going down 1-0 in the first half to a really nice goal from Bertrand Traore. But the second half was all not all one-way traffic, but pretty close to all one-way traffic, as Man United really sort of grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck in the same way that Chelsea did at City, with Bruno Fernandes converting a penalty and goals from Greenwood and Cavani to secure the 3 points for second place Man United.
It's bizarre how they need to concede a goal to get started. Like, this is like it's so weird. Like, it's a very weird team. Such a weird team,
and that, like, they often look just like not poor, but just
I don't think they're good.
In the first
I genuinely don't think they're good. I don't know. I seriously don't know how they're second. Like, they're not a good team. I'm sorry. Like, they're not a good team. It's bizarre.
They're a bad team. You're right. They're a bad team for 60 minutes, and then they're incredible for 30 minutes when teams are tired.
Yeah. I guess I wouldn't trust them. Like, I wouldn't trust them to win the title, or I know they're in the final of the Europa League as well, but like City are so by far better than them, and maybe if Chelsea had I've got to choose my words carefully. Chelsea had a bit more strategic, a bit more of a strategic view of their squad at the start of the year, and maybe we would be pushing City a bit more, with a bit more of a serious manager.
Right now, I do agree with you. I think Man United, I think, are the third best team right now in the Premier League. It's just fortunate that Fat Frank was in the hot seat at the beginning of the season for Chelsea. Otherwise, I think
and also
would be finishing third.
And also, Liverpool as well, who are just seem like they're out of gas this season a little bit. So, and Van Dijk obviously going down as well. So I think the table's flattering Man U. That's all I'll say.
But I don't disagree with you. Later on, Ollie Watkins also got a second yellow card for simulation and ended up getting sent off. So not often that we see, not enough do we see players getting yellow cards for simulation. But it's always a little bit it feels like it's too much when a player gets a second yellow for simulation and they end up getting sent off. But that's football too.
Big punishment.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. So Man United have got a big couple of days coming up. Firstly, they play Villa today, obviously. Then they play Leicester on Tuesday, and then Liverpool on Thursday. So really big 6 days.
I didn't know about the Man U Leicester game. So that's actually that's actually massive, especially for Leicester, who are going. going into the
But it's
final.
obviously it's a far bigger game for Leicester, I think, than it is for Man United. Like if Man United had lost this game, I think they probably could have coasted through that Tuesday game and then played maybe a better team on Thursday. But look, I can honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if both games end up being nil draws or something like that. Because
you're probably right.
Liverpool, Man United, and Leicester are all going to be a little bit flat, I think.
Yeah, I was saying you're probably right. That 3 points for Man U kind of locks them up pretty much into second. Or locks up second for them. So they can probably not go out as hard as they would have, and Leicester probably need to win because what are they 5 points ahead of West Ham. So a win for Leicester against Man U, and then there's a lot of pressure on West Ham to be able to get to that fourth spot.
100%. And I guess this segues nicely into the next game on the run sheet, which is Leicester's performance against Newcastle. I've got to say, this is not a performance I was expecting. They end up going down 4-0, 4 unanswered goals for Newcastle, and then Leicester did get 2 back late on. But I mean, this looked like the beginning of a late season collapse for Leicester, didn't it?
Yeah, it's a Newcastle as well, who have had trouble scoring all season, and obviously Wilson's back and St. Maximin's back, but you wouldn't have expected. This was the game that Leicester needed to just pocket the 3 points and move on, given they've got Man U in the FA Cup final. So yeah, bizarre result, and I wonder what 4-2 was paying. Incredible.
Yeah, probably pretty good odds, I reckon.
Yeah.
Mate, does this mean to you that Leicester are a sure thing to finish 5th now, or?
I still think that 5 points is important. Especially given West Ham blew the game today. So if West Ham had won today, and given Leicester have got Man U, I think West Ham would be looking at this result and being like, wow, we could have put so much pressure on. It would have been 2 points down on Leicester, with Leicester going into Man U.
Well, Leicester, I don't think, have got a particularly easy run either. So they play Man United on Tuesday, like we said. Then on Saturday, they play in the FA Cup final against Chelsea. Then they play Chelsea again 3 days later. And then they finish on the final day against Spurs at home, which, I think that's still going to be a tough game as well. You could have Bale just sort of kicking around and just having fun and scoring for fun.
Yeah. No, that's not an easy run. That's a pretty tough run. But I think that the 5 points is still pretty important. I think if West Ham had won today, then I think all bets are off. But yeah.
Fair enough.
I know you don't like to hear it, Tommy. I know you don't like to hear it.
Oh, mate, I'm so pained by all of this Champions League talk for West Ham. It's just hard to listen to now. Leeds, speaking of Spurs, they travelled to Leeds earlier on Saturday. Was absolutely belting down pre-game at Ellen Road, but the pitch held up and it's turned out to be a really entertaining game. Leeds opened the scoring, but later Spurs equalised, but Leeds were able to to go on with the job, score one just before half-time and another one late on in the game. The 3-1 result effectively kills off Spurs' chances for finishing top 4. Obviously, it's still mathematically possible, but as soon as you start talking about whether it's mathematically possible, then pretty much means it's not going to happen anymore.
Cue the Harry Kane transfer chat for the next 3 months.
Mate, my gut feel is that he's going to go, I think. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to Man United or City.
I heard an interesting theory, which I don't believe, but I'll share that if England win the Euros, then he'll be he's got some silverware, so he might stay at Tottenham. There you go. I don't believe it, but I just thought it was funny.
Mate, that is fantastic because there are levels to this. I love the optimism. First of all, that England are going to win the Euros, and then the second level of just overflowing ridiculous optimism is that will mean that Harry Kane will be so happy.
Yeah, he'll be satisfied because he's got a trophy. So there you go.
He'll be happy to play at Spurs forever now. Regardless of how garbage they are.
Yeah, he's got his trophy, so now he's well, stuff it. I won the Euros. So.
Just walking around like this, just scoring 20 goals, even though they're losing 4-2 every week.
Yeah, they've just got just instead of him in the Spurs jersey lifting up a title at the front of the stadium, it'll be him in the England jersey.
It's coming home, mate.
Yeah.
Liverpool hosted Southampton to keep their faint Champions League qualification hopes alive. Goals from Mane and Thiago Alcantara meant a straightforward win against the can't be relegated, but won't make Europe Saints. Good result for Liverpool, and we will probably be talking about this in a bit more detail if Jesse or Colby was on the pod and talking about their chance of making Champions League. I don't know about you, mate, but I just don't see Liverpool making Champions League at this rate.
No, they're probably, they're 2 games behind Leicester. Well, they've got a game in hand, so,
against Man United.
Yeah, you never know what those teams will probably play out a draw, knowing the 2 of them. But yeah, so no, I think they're more of a chance than West Ham to get 4th. But the one interesting thing about this game is like how hungry Mo Salah was. Like he had like at least 2 or 3 times where he could have passed it to Mane, but he was trying to score like the perfect goal, and he was trying to make sure he scored. So I think the Mane Salah friction. Let's talk about that in a few weeks' time, because there are some rumblings that Salah's not happy. So yeah, he just was so hungry. It was interesting to see, because there was definitely one cutback that Mane would have just tapped in the net and decided to shoot. So I think there's something going on there. I'm reading between the lines, Tommy.
Mate, I actually think Salah off the right at Real Madrid, I think that could be a good combination with Benzema through the middle, and obviously they've already got a couple of options off of the left with Hazard and Rodrigo.
Yeah, we can talk about that later on.
Vinicius, it'd be delicious.
Yeah, maybe. Do they have any money?
Nope. Especially after the fine they're about to cop for them.
Yeah, and are they going to get a transfer fee for Gareth Bale?
Nope. The already relegated Sheffield United, they lost at home 2-0 against Roy Hodgson's Palace. Eberechi Eze stole the show with a goal and an assist. And look, he's had a good without being amazing this season. But to be honest, I think he's ready to take the next step next year. And I think under a more expansive manager at Palace, I think he could blow up next season. I'm really looking forward to seeing how he goes.
Yeah, he's good enough, and I agree with that. I don't think throwing him into Palace's team with the way they've played most of the season was that super helpful for him. So, yeah.
Agreed. But look, it's probably been a pretty helpful sort of introduction to the Premier League for him. Like he's got plenty of time. Often there hasn't really been that much pressure on Palace to perform, because like they do get results.
Points. Yeah.
Exactly. So it hasn't been a particularly stressful season for him. It's a weird way to describe a football.
I get what you're saying. Yeah. But yeah, I'd like to see him. In a slightly more expansive style, and a bit more possession, a bit more free flowing possession. Yeah, exactly. And see what he can do, because he's excellent at running at people. Like incredible dribbling.
Just glides across the pitch.
Yeah.
Be plenty more predictions like that coming up in our Premier League review episode coming up in a couple of weeks, and then of course come August we'll be doing our Premier League season preview ep as well, so plenty more to look forward to there. But look, before we get into more season review stuff, one final game, that's Wolves. They hosted Brighton. Lewis Dunk scored early on, but then was sent off. He's had a real wild game. Before Adama Traore, he equalised, and Morgan Gibbs-White scored his first Premier League goal to give Wolves the win. Game was really of no consequence to either team. So, both teams are on the beach pretty much at Brighton.
Good to see Gibbs-White get a game, and I think he was out on loan. But I had him tipped either last season or this season as my boy. So.
I don't know where he's been.
Yeah, I think he was out on loan, maybe. But I agree. I don't know where he's been. But it's good. Yeah, late season charge for him. I'll tip him again next year.
Well, he might actually be a big thing next year. Neil Maupay, he also got sent off late for Brighton, meaning that their captain and high scorer both got sent off, which does bode well for West Ham next week.
Tommy, let me just say, as I said, the travel restrictions are lifting on the 17th of May. So maybe perhaps people are getting sent off for that reason. That's just the conspiracy theory out there.
I can't believe that you're suggesting that professional footballers will get sent off on purpose
I can fuck
for nefarious
off.
reasons.
Get out of England.
Alrighty. Look, let's talk a little bit of Champions League next up, though. So a couple of big results in the Champions League with the second legs being completed. So we now know that we now know who's going to be playing in the Champions League final in, what was it? I think it's about three weeks' time.
Yeah, 29th of May.
First up, Manchester City, they hosted Paris Saint-Germain. That was 2-1 in the first leg, so City already had a pretty good advantage. But this was, I guess, still a little bit of a surprise, at which I guess the ease at which City managed to put aside an Mbappe-less PSG.
Yeah, and I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Like the minute you saw Mbappe not starting, you knew how it was such a massive dent in PSG's chances, because it all fell to Neymar and Di Maria, and they just didn't come up trumps, and then obviously City scored early and basically just killed the tie. So that Mahrez goal in the 11th minute, that basically took the entire steam out of the tie and game. And I know City needed to score anyway, but yeah, you just felt like PSG needed to score anyway, but you just felt like they just took the sting out of the game completely, and it was just I was basically watching just to see how PSG reacted, and they reacted pretty predictably.
Exactly, mate. You mentioned Di Maria, and yeah, he did not react well to the pressure, did he?
No. Neymar as well was getting pissed off, as you could see, and it just seemed like without Mbappe, PSG are pretty average, and they just didn't have enough, and you could see how frustrated Pochettino was. Like the camera kept panning to him at important moments, and he looked like he didn't know what to do. But
it doesn't bode well for, I guess, the rest of Pochettino's sort of time at PSG either. For me, it kind of had shades of not quite as extreme, but sort of the final days of Sarri at Chelsea, even, where the players were just like, it just looked almost like he was going to look to the rest of the bench or even the crowd and just shrug his shoulders and say, well, what can I do? Like, these guys are just like, they're just doing their own shit.
Yeah, I just think they just realised they didn't have enough. Like, without Mbappe, I think Moise Kean was sort of not quite fit. They just didn't have enough. Like, it was, if you have a look at City's bench compared to anyone's bench really, and City are scoring in the 11th minute, like, and your best players like wearing runners on the bench. It just didn't bode well. And then players start losing their head. Obviously, Idrissa Gueye was out for the second leg because he got sent off. Like, yeah, you just can't have that. Like, in going into such a big game, you need a lot going right, and it just was unraveled. It unraveled in the first leg and it unraveled in the second leg, and there's a problem culturally there with just the mentality, I think.
100%, mate. Totally agree. Even I think what's really bad for Pochettino is that it doesn't even look like they're going to win the league this year in France either. I think Lille are top, I think, either on goal difference or just ahead on points. So I wouldn't be surprised even if Pochettino just gets sacked at the end of the season.
That's hard. I think that's...
but mate, the expectations are just so high at PSG, though.
Yeah, they're one game behind Lille, but 4 points behind. So even if they win their next game, they're still a point behind. So they may not win the title, and then not winning the Champions League. So, but he did come in late. So yeah, I think that's his only saving grace. And I think Neymar's just re-signed for 4 years. So the key thing for them is confirming what Mbappe's doing. If they lose Mbappe, then
I would not be surprised to see Mbappe leave. Imagine that, Mbappe, Salah at Real Madrid with Hazard.
What about Haaland, Mbappe, Salah, all of them at Real Madrid, mate?
All of them.
Yeah, that's right. Good luck to them.
Real Madrid just doing their version of modern monetary theory, just printing their own money.
Yeah, exactly. Just Pay him in the new coin, Dogecoin or something.
Is it Dogecoin or Doggy Coin?
I always assumed it was Dodgy coin. Dodgy.
All right. Speaking of other things dodgy, we mentioned Real Madrid just a second ago. They were a little bit dodgy against Chelsea, who goals for Werner and another tiny finish from Mason Mount meant that really Real Madrid sort of huffed and puffed, but couldn't really lay much of a glove on this really impressive Chelsea side at the moment.
Oh, I just thought Real Madrid were just dog shit. Like if Chelsea had someone who could finish chances, like the game would have been done and dusted. And that was my only worry, like watching the game. Like, how are we not scoring? Like, how many one-on-ones is Courtois going to save? Like, we need a goal. We need a goal. And then obviously we got that. We got that one, which was Havertz. Havertz could be the answer because he looks pretty cool and calm when he gets a chance. He just doesn't score them, but he looks more confident than Werner. And Werner got his goal off an open goal off the bounce of the crossbar. And so my only Kante, I've just got to say, Kante was incredible in this game. Like, just breaking up the play and charging forward, he was unstoppable.
He with Kante, like, it's easy to just pigeonhole Kante as just being like a great ball winning midfielder, but like he is so technically good that and it often goes sort of under the radar. Like in this, there was I think it might have been the Werner goal where like he nicks the ball and then he plays like a couple of simple it goes around the corner. I think there's a layoff from, it could be Havertz or Werner, and like it's like Kante is at the center of it, and it's like Hazard. It's like watching him, and like I don't think that's a ridiculous comparison to make, because he makes it makes it look really easy sometimes too, and just goes under the radar. But
I think
like you say, you mentioned Havertz just before, mate, and I want to come back to that because I think earlier on in the season we were sort of talking about like struggling to find the best position for Havertz, but I think through the middle, encouraging him to sort of drop off and fill that sort of number 10 role, but basically as a false nine, I think that is perfect for him, and it means that there's space for him to then run into, and
the guys can run in behind. So that's what Werner and Mount were doing, and it was the lineup was unfortunately for Pulisic, who's been really good, he played with Mount up on one wing and Werner on the other. So there was no space for Pulisic. But when he came on, he was excellent as well. But I think that sort of that central half striker, half false nine role for Havertz, and geez, it would have been amazing if he'd scored that goal where he lobbed Courtois, who's like 8 foot, and made him look kind of silly. But it looked good, and just Chelsea were just too devastating whenever we charged forward. Like, I know Real Madrid had a lot of like, I think Ramos hadn't played in 50 days and it was put in the lineup, and they just looked a bit slow, and defensively they just looked really vulnerable. And as I said, if it hadn't been for Chelsea's poor finishing / Courtois making some big saves, the tie would have been done and dusted.
I think this was a real example of just trying to sort of throw Sergio Ramos into the side and just hope that like his experience would be able to sort of drag them through in the same way that maybe they've used Ronaldo in the past to sort of just drag them through to the final, and like through sort of sheer personal brilliance alone. But yeah, Ramos just doesn't have, like, whilst he's incredible competitor, he's just not that influential at times as well.
Well, I think you're being a bit harsh, because he has said he hasn't played in ages and they just threw him in. So I think Real Madrid this season, despite the fact that I think if they beat Sevilla tonight, they can go top, I think, of La Liga. I'm pretty sure.
It was a 0 draw yesterday between Atleti and Barca, yeah.
Correct. So I'm just pulling up the table. So, Real Madrid can go equal top with Atletico, and then I think it goes down to head-to-head. So I think they go top, but if they win tonight. But they've been pretty average this whole season, and Benzema's bailed them out. They've had a couple of good performances from other guys here and there, and I think because of La Liga being a little bit weaker this year, I think they've managed to paper over the cracks. But the Champions League, they've been exposed a few times, and Chelsea looked the much better team over both legs. Like, And I was surprised that the way Real played, and they just couldn't get it going.
Well, we saw, I think, in both of these semi-finals that like there were two teams that with pretty major flaws, and two teams that don't have any major flaws. And I think the teams without major flaws just pretty comfortably ended up qualifying for the next round. So, mate, look, I have to throw it to you now. It's still going to be a couple of weeks before the actual Champions League final, but what's your early prediction? Come on, mate. I'm going to put you on the spot now. Do you have a good feeling about the Blues heading into the couple of weeks out from the final?
Chelsea have had City's number this year. You beat them in the FA Cup. We beat them the other day. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't rule anything out. I think, to be honest, hand to the Bible kind of, under oath sort of operation, I think City are a better team for sure. But can Chelsea beat them on a given day? Yeah, they can, and they have done it. And Chelsea's defence is pretty tight. You'll see Tuchel will play that system. He'll probably have Chilwell instead of Alonso, and then depending on who he's going to play at right wing back. But yeah, Chelsea will be much more defensive in the final, and they'll look to hit him over the top with your Werner and your Havertz and your Pulisic or your Mount. And if we sneak a goal, we can probably hold it and win it. So yeah, it's not in the I'm not putting it in the impossible category. Yeah.
I'm definitely hoping that the final turns out to be a better game than both of the semi-finals, to be honest, because for me, I guess both semi-finals fell a little bit flat. But look, we'll be properly previewing the Champions League final in a couple of weeks just prior, so looking forward to that then. But that's all we've got time for in terms of Champions League, though. Next up, A-League with Damo and Shannon.